Ever get that feeling like you're just drowning in bad news headlines?
Oh, yeah?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like every time you open your phone, it's just another wave of
It
negativity.
can be overwhelming.
It really can. And today we're going to dive deep into that whole phenomenon. We're talking doom scrolling, digital detoxing, and this thing called persuasive technology.
I think a lot of people are going to relate to this.
I think so, too. And our guide for this deep dive is this really insightful piece by Raj Guru.
Oh, yeah. Guru's work is it's really fascinating. It really connects the dots between our scrolling habits and how these platforms are actually designed.
Right. Like, we all know we should put the phone down, but there's something that just keeps pulling us back in.
It's like it has a hold on us.
Totally. So let's start with this whole doom scrolling thing. Is it really as widespread as it seems? I mean, we all talk about it.
It's definitely real. I mean, you've probably experienced it yourself. But Guru actually cites a 2022 report, and it found that the average person spends over 7 hours a day staring at screens.
7 hours.
7 hours.
No wonder we're all feeling so frazzled.
Yeah. It's only
And it feels like whenever there's a major event happening, everyone's just glued to their phones, just devouring every update, even if it's bad news.
It's like we can't look away.
It's true.
We're almost seeking out that negativity, and a guru actually points out that it's tied to our brains, our natural wiring.
Wait, so you're saying our brains are actually wired for doom scrolling?
Yeah, in a way, yes. It's called the negativity bias.
Okay.
Our brains are designed to prioritize threats. It's like a survival mechanism from way back when. But the problem is, in the digital age, algorithms have figured out how to tap into that.
So these platforms, they're using our own biology against us.
Exactly.
Wow.
And think about it. Social media feeds and news feeds, they're all designed to keep us engaged.
Yeah.
And what's more engaging than something that triggers a strong emotional response?
Yeah, that's true.
Fear, outrage, those things get us clicking.
It's starting to feel less like a personal failing and more like a rigged game. You know what I mean? Like every time we see a shocking headline or a heated argument online, we get a little hit of dopamine.
Yeah, you got it. It's like a reward system.
It's like a slot machine.
Exactly. Just like a slot machine. We keep coming back for more, even when we know it might not be good for us.
So what's the impact of all this doom scrolling? Like, aside from just feeling, a bit bummed out, are there any real consequences?
Well, actually, there's a growing body of research that links frequent doom scrolling to some pretty serious issues. Like one study that Guru cites found a strong correlation between doom scrolling and increased anxiety, depression, and even sleep disturbances.
Wow, so it's not just in our heads.
No, it's not.
It's actually impacting our mental and physical health.
It can have real consequences.
And it can also spill over into our relationships and our productivity, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If you're constantly glued to your phone, you're not really present with the people around you.
And it can be really tough to focus on anything else.
It's true.
When your mind is just buzzing with all that information.
So we're anxious, we're sleep deprived, and we're potentially isolating ourselves. That's a pretty bleak picture.
It can be a vicious cycle.
So is there any way to break free? I mean, I've heard people talk about this digital detoxing thing.
Digital detoxing.
Yeah, but does that actually work?
It's a good place to start. Guru talks about it as hitting the reset button, giving yourself a chance to kind of step away from the screens and reconnect with the real world.
So it's like a vacation from your phone.
Sort of, yeah.
Sign me up. But seriously, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it could be anything from setting specific tech-free times during your day to creating tech-free zones in your home. Some people even go on these full-blown digital detox retreats.
Wow.
The key is to find what works for you and start small.
Okay, baby steps.
Exactly.
But do we actually see real-world benefits from doing this?
Absolutely. Guru highlights research showing that digital detoxing can lead to reduced anxiety, better focus, and even stronger relationships. He even mentions this journalist, Catherine Price. She created a whole 30-day digital detox framework, and it's helped a ton of people.
That's awesome. Are there any stats on this? Do we know how many people actually feel better after cutting back on screens?
There was a 2022 Pew Research survey, and they found that 72% of people who consciously reduced their screen time felt happier and more productive afterward.
Wow, 72%. Those are some pretty compelling numbers.
Yeah, it's significant.
But I have to wonder, are we putting too much emphasis on individual willpower here? It feels like we're fighting this uphill battle against these tech giants who are basically profiting from our distraction.
You've hit on a crucial point there. We can't talk about doom scrolling and detoxing without acknowledging these really powerful forces that are kind of at play behind the scenes.
Which brings us to our next topic, persuasive technology.
Ah, yes.
I've heard that term before, but it sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, it can sound a little sinister.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's the deliberate use of psychology and design to influence our behavior online.
Okay.
Is how these platforms keep us hooked.
So you're saying it's not just our own fault, but these platforms are intentionally designed to keep us scrolling, even if it's not in our best interest.
Exactly.
Wow.
And, they're getting increasingly sophisticated at it.
How so?
Well, remember that negativity bias we talked about?
Yeah.
Platforms know that we're drawn to negativity, so their algorithms are designed to prioritize content that triggers those strong emotional responses.
Oh, wow.
Fear, outrage, controversy, all that stuff keeps us clicking.
So it's not just about showing us what we're interested in. It's about showing us what will keep us glued to the screen regardless of how it makes us feel.
Got it.
And then there's that infinite scroll thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they've removed any natural stopping points.
Right.
So we just lose track of time and keep consuming and consuming and consuming.
They don't want you to stop.
And what about those likes and comments and shares? Those seem pretty harmless, but are they part of this persuasive technology game too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They tap into our need for social validation.
Oh.
Which is a really powerful motivator. And the unpredictability of those rewards, not knowing when you'll get that next like or comment, keeps us coming back for more.
It's like we're all lab rats in a giant experiment, and we don't even realize it. So we're basically being manipulated into staying online, engaging with content that might not even be good for us, all because of these cleverly designed platforms. This raises some serious ethical questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes you wonder if these tech companies are putting profits ahead of user well-being.
Yeah.
Is it ethical to design platforms that exploit our psychological vulnerabilities like this?
It's a tough question.
It is.
On the one hand, these platforms offer us connection and entertainment.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's clear that they're contributing to some pretty negative consequences.
Exactly. And the line between ethical design and manipulation can be really blurry.
Guru mentions some specific platforms as examples of how this is playing out in the real world, right?
He did.
Which ones?
He points to TikTok, Instagram, Netflix, and Facebook.
Okay, so like the big ones.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can you give us a few specific examples?
Well, consider TikTok's algorithm. It's amazingly good at figuring out what you like and giving you an endless stream of similar content.
Right.
Which, of course, encourages you to keep scrolling. Then you've got Instagram with its heavy emphasis on likes and followers.
Oh.
Playing right into that need for social validation. Netflix has that autoplay feature.
Oh, I hate that.
Starts the next episode without you even clicking anything.
Look like they know.
They know, and Facebook has been shown to prioritize divisive and polarizing content in its newsfeed.
Why?
Because it generates more engagement.
It's fascinating and a little scary how sophisticated these platforms have become at kind of pulling our strings.
It's true.
It's not just a theory, it's actually having real-world consequences.
And Frances Haugen.
The Facebook whistleblower.
Yes, she really brought this issue to light with her revelations about how platforms knowingly amplify harmful content just to drive engagement.
It's a sobering thought. So where do we go from here? Are we just doomed to be pawns in this game of persuasive technology?
Not necessarily. I think the first step is awareness.
Okay.
Now that we understand how these platforms are designed and the tactics they use, we can start to reclaim some of our control.
I like that. Reclaiming control. So awareness is key, but what can we actually do about it? Like, how do we fight back against this persuasive technology? I mean, it feels like such a huge issue.
Yeah, you're right. It's both an individual and a systemic problem.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do on both levels.
Okay, good.
Ruth suggests some really practical steps that individuals can take to reclaim their attention and well-being.
Like what? Give us the goods.
Well, for starters, we can use tools like content blockers and screen time limits, to help us break free from those addictive cycles. Think of it like setting up some guardrails for your digital life.
So like putting some boundaries in place.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And, there are actually alternative platforms out there that are designed with well-being in mind. Platforms that prioritize quality content and connection over endless scrolling.
Interesting.
Those might be worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to exploring some new platforms. Anything to escape those algorithms? What else can we do on an individual level?
Don't underestimate the power of simple things like digital detoxing and developing more mindful tech habits.
Right.
We talked about digital detoxing earlier.
Yeah.
But even small changes like Being more intentional about who you follow on social media or silencing those constant notifications can make a big difference in how you feel.
It's about taking back control, isn't it?
Exactly.
Not letting technology dictate how we spend our time and energy.
It's about being more mindful of how technology impacts us and making conscious choices to create a healthier relationship with it.
I like that. So we've got some strategies for individuals, but what about the systemic side of things? How do we hold these tech giants accountable for the way they're designing these platforms?
That's where things get a bit more complex. But it's not hopeless.
Okay, good.
We need to start advocating for ethical design practices,
Okay.
push for greater transparency in how algorithms work,
Yeah.
and support legislation that protects user well-being.
So it's about using our voices and our votes to demand change.
Precisely.
Got it.
We need to hold these companies responsible for the impact their products are having on individuals and on society as a whole.
It feels like we're at a crossroads with technology.
I think so.
We can either continue down this path of manipulation and addiction,
Right.
or we can choose a different path,
Yeah.
one that prioritizes well-being and ethical design.
It's up to us
I like that.
to decide which way we want to go.
It's empowering to think that we're not just passive consumers, that we can actually shape the future of technology.
Absolutely. We have a responsibility to use our voices and demand better from the companies that create the technology we use every single day.
It's really inspiring to hear you talk about this with such optimism.
Oh, thanks. It's easy to get, overwhelmed by the negativity.
It can be.
But it sounds like you genuinely believe that we can create a better digital future.
I do. I truly believe that technology can be a force for good in the world. But it's up to us to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? What's the key takeaway from all of this?
I think the main takeaway is this. While doom scrolling and persuasive technology are powerful forces, we're not powerless against them.
Okay.
By understanding the psychology at play and by taking proactive steps both individually and collectively, we can reclaim our attention, our well-being, and ultimately our digital lives.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
And one that I think we all need to hear right now. Thank you for breaking all of this down for us.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
It really has. I feel like I'm walking away with a much deeper understanding of how all this works.
These are conversations we need to be having. And as always, we want to leave our listeners with something to ponder, a thought to spark further exploration. What's a question we can leave them with today?
Okay, here's one. We've talked a lot about how our brains are wired to focus on negativity.
All right.
So how can we actively seek out and engage with positive content online? How can we shift our focus and retrain our brains to gravitate towards things that uplift us and inspire us?
That's a great question. It's like we need to develop a new kind of digital literacy.
Yes.
One that's focused on finding the good.
Exactly.
Instead of getting sucked into the negativity.
It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's one that's worth pursuing.
I agree completely. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. But remember, this conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and to take action in your own digital lives.
You have the power to choose. Don't forget that.
It's almost like we need to become more discerning digital citizens.
Exactly. Critical thinking is essential in this digital age. We can't just passively consume everything that's thrown at us.
Right.
We need to question things.
Yeah.
Evaluate the information we're seeing and make conscious choices about what we engage with.
It's about taking ownership of our digital diets, I guess you could say.
I love that analogy.
Right.
Just like we're mindful of what we eat. We need to be mindful of what we consume online.
Instead of doom scrolling, maybe we should call it joy scrolling.
I love it.
Right?
Joy scrolling. That's what we should all be striving for.
Seeking out positive content, uplifting stories,
Yeah.
things that inspire us and make us feel good.
And remember, our brains are wired for connection.
Yeah.
So let's use technology to connect with people who lift us up, who share our values,
Right.
who bring joy into our lives.
It's about using technology to enhance our lives.
Yes.
Not detract from them.
Well said, technology is a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Sure.
It's ultimately up to us to decide how we want to use it.
That's a powerful reminder.
It is.
We have the power to shape our digital experiences.
We do. And I'm hopeful that as we become more aware of the challenges and as we develop healthier habits, we can create a more positive and fulfilling digital world for ourselves and for everyone.
I share your optimism. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It really has been. This has been a truly enlightening conversation.
As always, it's been great to be here.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some practical tools
Yes,
and a fresh perspective on how to navigate this digital landscape.
definitely.
Remember, you have the power to break free from the doom scrolling cycle and embrace a more mindful and intentional approach to technology.
You do.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.